Captain Midnight.
2025 marks the 10-year anniversary of one of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia's absolute peaks. In February of 2015, the show aired its 108th episode, and in doing so, it had decided to tackle one of those questions that's so obvious it had been debated online for years. The question of how exactly Paddy's Pub, one of the most disgusting bars in probably the history of fiction, has managed to keep passing health inspections. So really, why not do a health inspector episode? Honestly, it's kinda nuts that they hadn't already done this over 100 episodes in, but I'm so glad they waited until they were deep into the series, giving us Season 10, Episode 4, Charlie Work. Before I jump in though, I want to thank all of you for the responses to my Jimmy Fallon video last week. I really enjoyed reading those. It was kind of a different sort of video for the channel, so thanks for sticking around for that. Oh, and if you haven't subscribed yet, but find yourself watching my videos, now could be the time.
I got a fix right here. All right, just put this up and boom, that's pretty good. What was that? Why did the lights go out?
Okay, so for those of you who may not remember off the top of their head, like I said, this is the one where Charlie is stressing out over the bar's yearly health inspection. He has to scramble to keep the place from getting shut down, while the rest of the gang just does not care and is busy running a convoluted steak and chicken fraud scheme. It's a short one, just over 20 minutes, following Charlie sprinting around the bar, averting disasters, and doing his best to keep the gross chaos of Paddy's out of the inspector's sights. Now, I am sure a Season 2, 5, or 8 version of this premise would have also been great, like, don't get me wrong, but the episode we ended up getting here is helped out by a few factors. The first, and most straightforward, is that Charlie Work is heavily inspired by True Detective. More specifically, according to Dennis himself, Glenn Howerton, the guys loved the famous oneer in the first season of the show, which was all the rage back in 2014. This inspired the long, unbroken tracking shot that takes up a lot of the episode. Maybe even more important though is just how well defined the characters were at this point. I think the ultimate sign of a sitcom that's comfortable in its own skin and being made by people who know these characters like the back of their hands is when the characters can play hot potato with who exactly is the straight man for the episode, and it can still work. In early Sunny, Dee was pretty much always the voice of reason. Dennis often served that function later on. Even Frank and Mac have served that role from time to time. And here, it's Charlie, who can be both the gang's strangest member, but also its most grounded, and the one that can actually understand the feelings of those outside of their insular bubble of insanity the best. And it works so damn well here. Like, seriously. This may seem like kind of a minor point, so I want to underline how important it is to the episode's success. In Charlie Work, the show is able to have its cake and eat it too. Charlie is the grounding component here, keeping the cast on track and acting as that voice of reason, while at the same time, all of his plots to distract and trick the inspector are so perfectly over the top and in character that it just strikes this perfect balance between us completely seeing the logic in every move he makes, while laughing at how convoluted and intricate his plans are forced to become. Charlie Day, of course, gives a powerhouse performance. He's flustered, stressed out, and upset, before switching back into the character's highly unpleasant version of a nice normal guy when talking to the inspector. But going back to rewatch this one, I was really struck by how great of a Dennis episode it is too. Not only do we get one of the character's absolute best moments.
Look at me when you're talking to me!
The whole episode has Dennis acting bizarrely in every way, with him committing to a bad Matthew McConaughey impression while talking to the inspector for some reason. Now, is that also a True Detective reference as a nod to the episode's inspiration? I have no idea, but I think it really works. And I love the way that he and Mac's horrible relationship just goes through its usual motions in the background at a super high pitch, but Charlie is so numb to it all that he barely registers that. I think the crowning achievement of the episode, though, at least in terms of jokes, concerns Frank and his paintbrush. First, we see Charlie scream at Frank to put on some shoes for the health inspector, since he's purposely flushed them down the toilet. Frank's solution, of course, is to paint his feet to look like he's wearing shoes. Later, he loses his shirt, and again, decides to paint one on. I think it's a testament to the strength of the script, which in this case was written by all three of the guys, that either of these gags would have worked well on their own. but they're all in service of a bigger payoff, where Charlie gets Frank to paint himself head to toe and stand in Patty's dark basement playing a flute while she tests the carbon monoxide detector. I cannot express how much I love this gag. I think it's one of Always Sunny's greatest services to the world, that it finds hundreds of new ways to use Danny DeVito that are so over the top they wouldn't work in 95% of other live action settings, but here it just feels completely natural to the tone of the show. Now, at the time, I remember this episode being discussed as a Birdman parody. Before doing some research for this video, I was under the impression that that's kind of why they made it. According to Howerton, though, the episode was written before Birdman was even out. I do have to wonder, though, if later into production, the episode's music was influenced by it. Now, honestly, I'm not big on Birdman, it's not a favorite of mine, but the similar style that's used in the music is just perfect here, with it underscoring Charlie's every action. It does a great job of placing you in the character's headspace, and this was all handled by director Matt Shakman. Now, as a Star Trek fan, I mostly know this guy for being attached to Star Trek 4 and then never making it, but to normal people, they'll mostly know him from WandaVision and soon the upcoming Fantastic Four. He does a great job. The long tracking shot will get all the attention for this episode, of course, but I think the rest of it is better than average too, with some of the best line readings in the entire season. At the end of the day, Always Sunny is an interesting show because it's a sitcom about a bunch of friends drinking and hanging out, but it's also about these horrible people just continually burrowing deeper into a hell of their own creation. And few episodes demonstrate the awful world they've constructed for themselves better than this one. Charlie has to rise to the occasion and pull together an incredibly elaborate performance for a day, and in service of what? To appear baseline normal to a health inspector for 15 minutes. I think it says a lot about how disconnected from the rest of the world the gang has really become at this point. The last few minutes of the episode are some of my favorite, as we see all of Charlie's plans, executed to perfection, just go completely unnoticed. He's been doing this every year, right under their noses, and they've never thought to appreciate it or take it seriously. It's a perfect encapsulation of Charlie's role within the group. He keeps all of them afloat with his often very gross Charlie work, and they can't be bothered to care much about it either way. Now, don't get me wrong, with the greater context of the show, we know they have every reason to not take Charlie seriously, but I think there's something poignant in the fact that he often feels like he has the most potential to grow and be a better person in the gang, and is constantly stuck looking up to people who, in many ways, are far more messed up than he is. I think as Always Sunny has gone on, the showrunners have leaned more and more into one-off experimentation episodes. Now, this has always been part of the show's DNA, but in the later seasons, it can sometimes feel like the only reason why they keep wanting to make the show. And some of those episodes can come off as more fun in theory than in execution, falling so in love with their concepts that they forget that it's the character dynamics that really makes the show sing. Charlie Work is a near perfect episode because it's able to balance both of those things and make it look easy, to take the show into a new technical direction while making sure the characters aren't sacrificed at the altar of that experiment. It's the high point of season 10, and one of the best episodes It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia has ever managed to produce. And after so many years, that's definitely saying a lot. So that is all I have for you in this one. I will say, for those looking for an update on the second issue of my comic Binary C, we are still making progress on issue 2, and I can't wait for you all to see it. Now, if you haven't checked out issue 1, the digital version is on Amazon, and you can find that link down in the description below. If you like sci-fi and pirates, or just want to see how I am as a fiction writer, please check it out. Thanks, and I will be back with another video really soon.
Here's a special tip for the fellas and girls who have not already joined Captain Midnight's new 1940 Flight Patrol. You'd better hurry up and join at once, because there's a big adventure ahead. The thing to do now is to get started, because we're going to have not only barrels of fun, but loads of free gifts and prizes, too.